Hey guys, it's Doc Apocalypse here with more Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoilers. This is day 6. Uh, we're going to hop right into it, but don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get right into it. Alright, the first card is Acquisition Octopus. This is 2 and a blue for an artifact creature equipment octopus. It's a 2/2. Whenever Acquisition Octopus or equipped creature deals damage to a player, draw a card. And it has a reconfigure cost of 2. So, this is a bad version of Toski, basically, because it doesn't count for all creatures, and it has to be equipped with him based on the verbiage of the card. So, a 2/2 that draws a card is not terrible in the early game. Turn 3 is kind of sketchy with the 2/2, so you're going to maybe draw 1 or 2 cards off this, and you're going to have to put it onto something. And it doesn't actually buff that creature in any way. It doesn't give it a 1/1 or haste or anything like that. So it's not a terrible card, but it's just another. I almost consider this kind of like a draft shaft. It's a kind of a trap card that makes you think, ooh, I get like a Toski-esque card. But no, it has its place, but it's not going to be a staple by any means. Next card is Blade of the Oni. Alright, this is 1 and a black for an artifact creature equipment demon. This is a mythic 3/1 with menace. Equipped creature has base power and toughness of 5/5, has menace, and is a black demon in addition to its other color types. Reconfigure it for 2 and a black. So this on its face is an okay card. 3/1 with menace doesn't really mean much. It's going to die to anything that blocks it. However, the reconfigure cost can be negated some by other cards that say the first thing you reconfigure costs 2 less to cast, blah, 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 blah. And so you can turn a 1/1 token into a 5/5 with menace, and then when that thing gets blocked and dies or gets removed some way, shape, or form, this just becomes another artifact creature again until you pay that reconfigure cost again to put it back onto another creature. I really do love these artifact creature equipments because this is like a good version of equipment. Just a great version of equipment, actually. This is the best version that they have yet. So this card is going to see a lot of limited play, some standard, and I mean this is going to see standard play for sure, but not a ton. And mainly because of its wild card cost in Arena. In paper, you're not going to see it a lot just because of its mythic, so it's probably going to be one of the more bulk mythics than the other ones. So move on to the next one. We got Boon of Boseju. It's a 1 and a green instant spell. Target creature gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the greatest mana value among permanents you control. Untap that creature. This is a really cool card for green to be able to buff something really fast and untap it. So you swing in, and then on the snapback, you go ahead and buff that creature with... Green has big expensive cards. That's just how green is. So a 4 mana 4/4 now became a 8/8 that is untapped and can block whatever swinging in, as long as it doesn't have flying or menace. But this is just a really, really, really good playable card in just about anything. I even see this in Commander and other Eternal formats. Maybe not Legacy, just because there's so much amazing stuff that Legacy does, and Legacy is basically play blue or lose. So let's go to the next card. Next card is Go Shintai of Boundless Vigor. This is a 1 and a green legendary enchantment creature shrine. It's a 1/1 with trample. At the beginning of your end step, you may pay 1. When you do, put a 1/1 counter on target shrine for each shrine you control. And this the trample on this is really, really cool because yes, as soon as it comes onto the battlefield, its trample doesn't matter. However, you can pay 1 on your end step, and if you have 3 or 4 shrines, this became a 5/5 or a 4/4. That is really cool. In a shrines deck, this is going to make all of your shrines very big very quickly. On every single one of your end steps, you can boost your shrines more because you paid even another shrine out the next turn and another shrine the next turn. And so, at worst case, turn 2, you play this, and then, well, I guess turn 3, is really the first time you'd be able to do it. But if you have any way to ramp a little bit, then turn 2 you can play this and pay 1 and turn it into a 2/2. That's not bad. Turn 3, you play out another shrine or another 2 shrines, and now you can bump this up even more and protect it and be able to start giving your other shrines go big stuff. So I like this card a lot. In the shrines deck, it's going to be amazing, and auto include for shrines if you ask me. Next one is Hinata Dawn Crowned for 1 blue, red, and white. And I have been practicing these names, and it doesn't show, and I'm sorry. This is a 4/4 legendary creature, Kirin Spirit, with flying and trample. Spells you cast cost 1 less to cast for each target. Spells your opponents cast cost 1 more to cast for each target. So if they're targeting multiple creatures, it costs 1 more. If you're targeting multiple creatures or multiple players and like Commander, then it's going to cost 1 less to cast. So this can really bring down the cost of some of these cards drastically if it's a multi-target card. I'm not sure how the word format's going to be for destroy all type things or whatnot, because then it in theory could bring a really expensive sweeper down to negligible 2/3 mana because it's destroying all creatures. But this is a really, really cool card. It's a bit expensive, a little hard to get to because of the 3 colors. But I mean, it's a 4/4 spirit with flying and trample. Just on its face, that's worth it at 4 for CMC. But to be able to lower the cost on other stuff and to increase the cost to just tax the crap out of your opponents, that is really cool. Let's move on to the next one. The next one is Hin 2 Heavens as 1. Red, white, and black legendary creature, human samurai. It's a 3/4. If a creature attacking would cause a triggered ability of a permanent you control to trigger, this ability triggers an additional time. So all of those, when this creature attacks, create a 1/1, now creates 2 1/1s, or put a 1/1 on target creature, you put a 1/1 on 2 target creatures, so on and so forth. This is a really cool card. We've seen these kinds before in a relatively recent history, but they always are so bomby. In Limited, this is going to be a must pick, especially if this is your first 3 or 4 go arounds on the first set, and you find this bad boy. Ooh, baby, you're almost slotted right into red, white, black immediately, because this is just going to be a great one that's going to say, hey, focus on your triggers, focus on your combat triggers with this mono samurais, do all that fun jazz. This is cool. Another bomb. Kamigawa is just bomb after bomb after bomb. It seems like this is way better than Strixhaven or AFR or even the Vows. The Vows had some bombs, but not like this. This is crazy. Let's go on to the next one. Kami of Industry. This is a 4 and a red creature spirit. That's a 3/6. It's a common. When Kami of Industry enters the battlefield, return target artifact card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste and sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. I mean, this is definitely common writing right here. Like, being able to get artifacts back with a mana value 3 or less is cool, but 3 or less mana value artifacts don't normally do a whole heck of a lot. There are some really cool artifact vehicles that gain haste with this, but you're going to have to crew them still. They don't become artifact creatures, and it's a cool card. It has its jank abilities to really kind of pop off if you have the right setup for it, but this is going to be a jank. This isn't going to be a tier ranked card, and that just is what it is. I like it though. I love the art on this. It's a 6-legged looking ape thing, and the kiln's like in his chest, so he's heating up the irons and making these crazy swords out of his chest. Like, that's pretty cool. Next one, this is one of my favorites, Kura, the Boundless Sky. It's 3 and a green for a legendary creature dragon spirit. That's a 4/4 with flying and death touch. That alone is awesome. That is right there. If that was all it said, I would like this card. But it also has a dice trigger that says, you may choose one, search your library for up to 3 land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle. Or you can create an XX green spirit creature token where X is the number of lands you control. So this does a very Renin 7 style actions on death. So instead of Renin 7, you can look at the top 4 and pull all the lands. This says straight up find 3 lands. So this is not as bad as that +1 on Ren, because you're not discarding a bunch of, like, I've had it where I popped Renin 7 and I got rid of 2 Cultivated Colossuses, a Mana Dork, and I got 1 land out of it. That hurts. But vice versa, on the second one, it says create an XX green spirit creature token where X is the number of lands. We've seen that in Renin 7 with their Tree Folk. We've seen that in Druid class, on that last step of Druid class. And it's always bomby. So this is definitely going to go into my Green Ramp Cultivated Colossus deck as soon as it comes out. Let's move on to the next one. Moon Snare Specialist. Whew. 3 and a blue, creature human ninja. That's a 2/2 with ninjutsu for 2 and a blue. So it's 1 less than its casting cost. When Moon Snare Specialist enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target creature to its owner hand. So it's a 3 mana bounce spell that gets 2 damage in when it's ninjutsu'd in. So bounce spells are a lot cheaper than 3 mana, but getting the 2 damage in and having another creature, well, not another, trading a creature isn't terrible, because then you can ninjutsu this back out with something else. Because I highly doubt they're going to let this, they might let this swing in again because it's a 2/2 instead of other things. So you could probably swing in with something bigger and it gets chump blocked, this gets through, you ninjutsu it out for something else, and you get more ETB triggers, so on and so forth. Ninjutsu is kind of a broken mechanic that is going to be a lot of fun. Next one is Discover the Impossible. 2 and a blue for an instant. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. Exile 1 of them face down and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. You may cast the exiled card without paying its mana cost if it's a spell with mana value 2 or less. If you don't, put that card into your hand. I really do like this if you don't put it into your hand clause, because there's plenty of these that say, hey, you may exile X amount of cards and play them until the end of the next turn, and if you don't, they just stay exiled. Where at least if I look at the top 5 cards and I say, oh, that's the bomb I'm looking for, I don't have the mana to spend it right now. I might not even have the mana to spend it next turn. But I can just put it into my hand and let it sit there for 2 more turns and then play it. Or wait for them to build their board state up and then sweep it with that card. Or if I just find a bunch of lands and 1 cheaper spell that's a 2 mana or less, well, I get a free card out of it. I get a free spell that I can ping someone with it, or I can Fading Hope something out and just tempo the game back a little bit. The possibilities for this particular instant is quite large. And this is not an auto include, but it's a good add to a mono blue tempo deck that is forming very quickly in this particular set. It's gonna be a thing. It's gonna be in the meta. Next one is Network Disruptor. For a single blue pip, artifact creature Moonfolk Rogue, it's a 1/1 with flying. Whenever Network Disruptor enters the battlefield, tap target permanent. And keyword target permanent. So you can tap anything. If you let it ETB and you tap down one of the lands, because they don't stop it they don't use their counter spell to counter this, then you can tap down that 1 land. So now they can't spend that mana for the counter spell. Oh darn! I like this a lot more than I did when I first read the card. I thought first this was kind of garbage, but I do see the nuance there of being able to tap down target permanent, any permanent, including lands. I think that's what I'm going to be using this card most for, is to just shut down their interaction on my turn, so that way I can play out the big spell. Because this is only one. It's only cost me 1 more. It basically makes all of my spells uncounterable for 1 extra mana, essentially. So it's just food for thought. I don't think this is anything special other than for that particular instance. So take it as you will. Let's move on to the next one. Next one is Saiba Trespasser. 4 and a blue, artifact creature Moonfolk Rogue. It's a 3/5 this time with channel for 4. discard the Trespasser and tap up to 2 target creatures you don't control. Those creatures don't untap during their controller's next untap step. We've seen this kind of thing before. 5 mana for a 3-power creature is not great, and it has nothing if you pay the 5 mana. It's just a 3/5 without flying, without any kind of evasion. It's just a straight up 3/5, basically wall. Or, more importantly, you're going to channel this more than you're going to play it, and you're going to tap down 2 of the creatures and try to tempo them out and slow them down. Just say, hey, those 2 big bad boys are not going to play for this turn and next turn. That's it. This is going in the blue tempo deck, maybe, if you can find room for it. I don't think you're going to find room for this particular card, though. Maybe a one of. Next one is You Are Already Dead. This is a single black mana instant. Destroy target creature that was dealt damage this turn, and you draw a card. So, I've seen these destroy target creature that was dealt damage rot in my hand more than I've played them. However, in black, there's a lot of ways to cause small amount of damage, or in Rakdos, especially with the Spikefield Hazard, doing a single damage to all creatures, or a single damage to one, whatever. So that right there is a 2 mana, destroy a creature and draw a card, essentially. You can pay a single mana to do 1 damage to 1 creature, and then you draw a card, and you get rid of that creature. That's cool. I like it a lot. You have to work around it a lot. This is a narrow card, because you gotta block it with a 1/1, block the big creature with a 1/1, and then kill it, or do something. There's a lot of steps you have to set up before you can really effectively utilize this card. It's still not bad though. It still has its fringe play. It'll definitely be in a lot of jank decks, and it'll be in limited. I will use this in limited more often than not. Let's move on to the next card. Seven Tail Mentor. Alright, this is a 3 and a white for a creature Fox Samurai. It's a 2/3. When Seven Tail Mentor enters the battlefield or dies, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. So the idea of this one is to put the 1/1 on something that you don't want to die, and you want Seven Tails to die to get that second 1/1 on it. So you want to be swinging with this and being aggressive and letting them take it out. So you can put the 1/1 on something else. Being aggressive and getting through for 2 is good. And if they block it and kill it, you get a 1/1 on something else, so it's harder to get killed when it swings in. Yep, this is just another common card that is more or less draft chaff. It's got really cool art, though. I do like the art a lot. So, other than that, it's alright. Move on to the next one. Heir of the Ancient Fang. This is 2 and a green for a creature Snake Samurai. It's a 2/3. Heir of the Ancient Fang enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it if you control a modified creature. So, 3 mana for a 2/3 is not that great. 3 mana for a 3/4 is okay. But other than that, it's just a beater. It's just a straight up, non-flying, non-hexproof, non-anything beater at common. Yeah, you know my feelings on these kind of cards. Nashi Moon Sage Scion for 1 and a black. It's a legendary creature, Rat Ninja, for a 3/2 with ninjutsu for 3 and a black. Whenever Nashi Moon Sage Scion deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of each player's library. Until the end of turn, you may play one of those cards. If you cast a spell this way, you pay life equal to the mana value rather than paying its mana cost. I like and I hate that at the same time. This is if you're low on life, you hope and pray that you get a land off the top of yours or their deck. Because then you don't have to pay a life. If you're high on life, then you're probably going to get a land and not get a good spell off the top, because that's just how the world works. And so, I don't know. This could be cool. There's ways to kind of work this with spells that say deal creature, or X creature deals its damage to player, blah, 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 so on and so forth. So you can kind of work this around, especially at instant speed. You can be discarding their cards off the top of their deck, or exiling them off the top of their deck on their turn and on your turn. It's cool. It's not the greatest. It doesn't have any form of evasion, so it is only going to get in on its ninjutsu. And then after that, a 3/2 is pretty easy to kill. So you're gonna want to buff it in some way, shape, or form. But we'll move on to the next one. Next one is Colling Stalker. All right, this is 1 in a green for a creature snake ninja. It's a 2/1 with a 1 in a green ninjutsu. Whenever a Colling Stalker deals combat damage to a player, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control that doesn't have a 1/1 counter on it. So this is cool in the early game. You can be buffing your other creatures, but it is a 2/1, so after it's ninjutsu'd in for its casting cost, which is kind of strange, it needs to be buffed, or it needs to be ninjutsu'd out and then ninjutsu'd back in again to be able to start doing that, because it's going to die to just about everything. A lot of stuff has toughness greater than 2. So, it's still a cool card. I like it for the being able to put +1/+1 counters on other creatures that don't have them. So now you're getting your modifier count up, which modifiers mean a lot in this set. So the whole being able to get stuff off of modifiers is important, and this is a good way to do it. Plain and simple. Next one is Akiba Salvage. This is 4 in a black. It's a sorcery. Return target creature or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then, if you control an artifact and an enchantment, put 2 1/1 counters on that permanent. So a 5 mana return any creature or vehicle to the battlefield from your graveyard is already a good price. That's a fair price. It's not the best price, but it is fair, especially at uncommon. So this is going to be relatively cheap for us commander players that like to buy singles instead of just cracking a shitload of packs. But the being able to put 2 1/1 counters on it if you control artifact and an enchantment, that's even better. That just makes this 5 mana spell well worth it. Because if you can pull a 5 mana or greater creature out of the graveyard, then this just became like your graveyard is in your hand. And that's awesome. I mean, it is at sorcery speed. It's not at instant speed, so you can't use it to bring in a biggin and kill that other biggin off. But, I mean, hey, beggars can't be choosers. This is a great costed sorcery that is going to be a kind of a staple in a lot of black graveyard decks. So, let's just move on to the next one. Orochi Merge Guardian. This is 1 in a green for a creature snake druid. All right, it's a 1/1 uncommon that's a mana dork. It taps for a green. As long as Orochi Merge Guardian is modified, so it has a 1/1 or an enchantment or a equipment on it, you can tap it to add 2 green. Other than that, there's nothing else other than flavor text on it, and it's not terrible. It's really not. I mean, a 2 mana dork that creates 2 when it has a 1/1 counter on it is amazing. This is going to pair very well with the other card that ninjutsu's in and puts a 1/1 counter on Merge Guardian. So now you got a 2 mana dork. I like it a lot. Green Ramp's going to love it. So let's just move on to the next one. Reforged Ronin for a single red artifact creature human samurai 2/2. I really like this card, actually. It has haste. At the beginning of your end step, return Reforged Ronin to its owner's hand. And you can channel it for 1 in a red. You discard Reforged Ronin and draw a card. So this is an amazing early game mono red aggro deck card. Because you can play it turn 1, it has haste, swings in for 2, and then comes back to your hand so it's protected. I mean, yes, it has to be removed before the end step. So that's awesome. Turn 1, play it out. Turn 2, play out 2 of these if you got them. And they both have haste. You know, this is really cool. And then when they become obsolete because of big creatures getting on the battlefield, because you've got better spells to play that are appropriately costed and on curve, you can just channel this for 2 and draw another card that's going to get you something that's better than Reforged Ronin, that's going to continue to put the pressure on the opponent. This is mono red goblins all day. This is what they want, an early hasty 2/2. Yeah, it's not a goblin, but I mean, it might as well be. It does the same thing a lot of goblins do, but better. So this card is really, really good, especially at uncommon. Man, uncommon is getting a lot of help recently. Let's go ahead and go into one of the artifact creatures. This is a Rito Sentinel. It's a 3 colorless artifact creature construct. It's a 3/3 with Defender. I hate Defender, but when the Sentinel enters the battlefield, target player mills 3 cards. Then you may pay 3, put target card from a graveyard on the bottom of its owner's library. So this is a graveyard hate-esque, like a bad graveyard hate. Basically it says, hey, I don't want you to recur that big bad that I just removed, but I can only use a destroy. I didn't have an exile removal. Now I pay 3 more and put it on the bottom of your library, so that way you have to shuffle it and then try to hunt for it or use a tutor on it and tempo yourself down a little bit. This is a bad tempo artifact that a 3/3 Defender for 3, and no way to really get away from Defender unless you have another card that says creatures attack as if they didn't have Defender. That's, yeah, it's alright. It's not great. I see it as draft and a trap, if anything. Let's move on to the next one. Shiga Okiba Gang Leader. 1 and a white black. Man, this set is going to kill me. Legendary creature, Rat Pilot. Alright, this is a 4/3 rare card. At the beginning of combat, on your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains haste. Return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. This is super duper powerful. This says swing with your vehicles every time you can, because if they go to the graveyard, you can get one of them back next turn. If you don't, and if you are able to connect with that vehicle when you get it back next turn, it just comes back to your hand. If it dies, it goes to the graveyard, and then you can bring it back next turn again and repilot it and re-swing in. This is a really, 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 really good card, and I definitely see a commander deck coming from this particular card. Vehicles matter, and it's just going to be all about get your commander on the battlefield and start pumping them pilots in, finding ways to get them into your graveyard, swinging with them every chance you get, because who cares if they die. This is a really cool card. I'm glad that they dialed it back a little bit and didn't say pay X and return target vehicle, because then I'd just be like, as soon as I start to get more mana, I'm just going to be popping these vehicles back out and pop a whole bunch of them back out, in a single turn. But it's still a really fun card, and this is going to see a lot of play in the vehicles deck that is basically complete now, and now it's just going to be picking the ones out that you don't want. In reality, it's going to be hard to pick and choose which ones are not good enough to stay in this deck, which I never thought that day would come, where pilots and vehicles would be its own deck. Alrighty. Next one is Shigeki Jukai, a Visionary, maybe. I don't know. 1 and a green. It's a legendary enchantment creature, Snake Druid. It's a 1/3 with 1 and a green, tap. Return the Visionary to its owner's hand. Reveal the top 4 cards of your library. You may put a land card from among them onto the battlefield tapped. The rest go into your graveyard. We've seen this kind of thing before. This is a way to fill your graveyard. And it also has Channel, this is the only card with Channel that I've seen that bounces the card back to your hand itself. You don't need to have a bounce spell ready to bring it back to your hand to be able to then channel it. So you can channel it for XX and green. You discard the Visionary and return X target non-legendary cards from your graveyard to your hand. So this isn't going to bring back a Visionary himself, but it can bring back other cards that are not legendary. That's really cool. I mean, the XX and green we've seen before, and I don't really like the XX part of it, but in a pinch, being able to pull those cards out that you threw into the graveyard from its first step is really not a terrible deal. And at 2 CMC for a 1/3, that's not bad either. So This is just a cool card. It's only a rare, so it's not. It's again wild cards. Come on, Wizards needs to fix their economy, but this is a cool card. I think we're going to see a lot of it in packs. This thing is going to be kind of a bulk card, but it's going to be a lot of fun. Move on to the next one. Sky Blessed Samurai. This is a 6 and a white, so 7 CMC, 6 and a white, enchantment creature human samurai. That's a 4/4 with flying. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each enchantment you control. This is an enchantment matter samurai that has flying. And so if you have a decent amount of enchantments out, this can be a quite inexpensive 4/4 flyer. There's no other frills with it other than it has flying, but it can be cheap. If you have a lot of enchantments out, which a lot of these creatures are enchantment creatures, then this very well could be a 1 mana 4/4 flyer. That's going to be more into the late game, but a 1 mana 4/4 flyer in the late game can be the make or break right there. That is very, very, very true. And this is a samurai that can attack alone with all your other samurais, and it has flying. It can get over a lot of stuff, and this is just truly a good card. And it's going to be missed a lot, I think, because of its uncommon and its initial expense rate of 6 and a white. People are going to say, oh, it's too expensive, and not even read the rest of the card. Like 7 CMC for a 4/4, they're going to immediately click to the next card. So keep this on your watch list. Next one is Tales of Master says Hero, 4 and a green. Actually, I had a better pronunciation of it earlier, and it's weird that I don't remember it now. Anyway, put a 1/1 counter on target creature or vehicle you control. It gains vigilance till end of turn. You do this twice. On the third time, you exile it, and you get a 5/5 that with vigilance and haste named Seshiro's Living Legacy, enchantment creature Snake Warrior. Just has vigilance and haste, nothing else. Which a 5/5 with vigilance and haste for 5 mana, plus 2 other creatures get 1/1s on them and vigilance. That's not terrible. It's not the best cost. It's especially for a Saga, for how slow it is. I mean, the downside is that you play this turn 5, probably turn 4 in green, maybe even turn 3 if you're lucky. So turn 3, turn 4, on turn 5, you're able to have a 5/5 with vigilance and haste. That's not terrible. If your mana works out right and you're able to ramp into this appropriately. If you play it on curve, you're looking at turn 7, having a 5/5 with vigilance and haste. Not as great, but not terrible. A 5/5 is a good card to have just about at any point in the game, especially with vigilance. So we're just going to move on to the next card. Thirst of Knowledge. 2 and a blue for an instant, draw 3 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. We've seen these kind of cards before. Again, nothing new here. Draw 3, discard 2 unless you discard a specific card. It's another one of those. There's a lot of artifacts, so this isn't going to be hard to discard an artifact that you don't necessarily want at that moment. And there's also ways to get artifacts back, like the bring back a vehicle. You just discard an artifact vehicle. Now your rat pilot is going to be able to bring that vehicle back, and you get to keep 2 of those cards. You can play out that land that you got in there, and you can play out the other vehicle that you have. So it can just start, hodgepodging together stuff that is really going to work. So this is not the worst, especially in this particular meta. If it was discard specific creature or something like that, or I don't know, it wouldn't be as good. But if it's a discard an enchantment aura, then it wouldn't be very good at all. But let's move on to the next one. Weaving Bracelet. This is our last card for today so far, at least. 2 and a green for an artifact creature equipment spider. All right, this has reach, and equipped creature gets +1/+4 and has reach. Reconfigure for 4. It's only a 1/4. It's a 1/4 for 3 with reach, which at that cost is not the worst. A relatively early to stop flyers is not bad, but that reconfigure cost is terrible, and being able to, that's essentially 7 CMC for to add 1/4 and reach to one of your other creatures, and then you don't have an extra reacher sitting there. It's just Voltroning something with this is not the worst idea. Being able to reduce that reconfigure cost is going to be very important in these reconfigure decks, because Reconfigure for 4 is going to tempo you out of the game, and you're going to be doing it to yourself. So being able to bring down that reconfigure cost is going to be very important. But alrighty, so that's the end of that. These are all the cards that I could fit on this screen because we had too many today. Tell me what you think was your favorite card. Put it down in the comments below. It only takes a second to type in a single word like Network Disruptor. Well, it's 2 words, but it helps me out a lot. And I want to know what you guys think, because my personal favorite is Kura, the Boundless Sky. It's definitely one of the best ones up here today, if you ask me. As well as Hinata, the Dawn Crowned. That's really good. Those two are just really breakable cards. I mean, but there's been so many bombs. The Shrine is super bomby. And again, I'm disappointed by the acquisition Octopus. It's just, you're already dead. It's a really cool named card. I feel like they could have given it a little bit more love than a standard functional reprint. But, I mean, hey, beggars can't be choosers, right? These are really good cards, and the set is turning out amazing. Here's the rest of the cards that I wasn't able to get to on the other page. Again, Tale of Masters, that's really cool. Sky Blessed Samurai, I think that's going to be a lot of fun. Weaving Bracelet, terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. I'm probably going to eat my words at the end of the year, though, when find out that Weaving Bracelet was a pivotal part of a deck or something. So, again, thank you guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Down below, we have our subscribe button and our like button, or switched, I don't know. And you'll see around me here in a second that there are other videos that I put out for the rest of the spoilers, as well as a playlist of all of the spoilers. Don't forget to like. I also put my sign all the way over there that you can click on, and you can like the page that way. Either way, thank you as always. Be safe, be kind, and God bless.